Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 5.
President Donald Trump left Walter Reed Medical Center just a little over an hour ago. He's now back in the White House. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Kendall Bartley. Earlier today, the president tweeted that he's, quote, feeling really good. Don't be afraid of COVID. Don't let it dominate your life. We have developed under the Trump administration some really great drugs and knowledge. I feel better than I did 20 years ago. But the president's doctor said the president is not out of the woods quite yet.
The team and I agree that all our evaluations, and most importantly, his clinical status, support the president's safe return home, where he'll be surrounded by world-class medical care 24/7.
Now, the president's doctor says he's been fever-free for more than 72 hours and has normal oxygen levels. He also said the president received another dose of remdesivir at the hospital today. And here's what else we know about President Trump's status. His doctor would not say when he last tested negative for COVID-19. However, the Cleveland Clinic says the president was named on a list of people who had tested negative before the debate. A clinic spokesperson says the clinic did not review those test results. The president will work in a temporary office space on the basement level of the executive mansion part of the White House. The president's campaign also says he plans to participate in the next debate scheduled for Thursday, October 15th in Miami. Now, First Lady Melania Trump gave an update on how she's feeling today. On Twitter, the First Lady said she's feeling good and is resting at home. A White House official said Melania plans to stay home because she realizes the dangers of coronavirus and would not take the risk of potentially exposing others. Even before her diagnosis, the First Lady cut back on travel during the pandemic. And White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany is now the latest member of President Trump's team to test positive for COVID-19. McEnany says her test came back positive this morning while she's experiencing no symptoms. The press secretary is now in quarantine and says she'll continue working on behalf of the American people remotely. Two of her deputies in the press shop have also tested positive. More states started in-person voting today ahead of the November election as Joe Biden continues to campaign in Florida and the Trump administration finds ways to campaign while the president is still being treated for COVID-19. NBC's Chris Pallone has the latest.
29 days until the November election, and the campaign continues even as President Trump remains sidelined from COVID-19. In-person absentee voting now underway in parts of Maine and in South Carolina, which saw long lines in some places as voters make sure their votes count during the pandemic.
I voted for Biden.
Trump.
The latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows Democrat Joe Biden with a 14-point lead among likely voters, an increase of 6 points from before last week's debate. Biden headed to Miami for campaign events and an NBC News town hall would not comment on the president's weekend ride to greet supporters outside Walter Reed Medical Center and said he's still planning to attend the next debate in 10 days if the president has recovered.
Listen to the science. If the scientists say that... I'm sorry. If the scientists say that it's safe and the distances are safe, then I think that's fine. I'll do whatever the experts say is the appropriate thing to do.
With COVID-19 spreading through the White House and Trump campaign staff, would they curtail in-person campaign events or even ask for the next debate to be conducted remotely?
No, we're in a campaign. We have a month to go. We see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris out there campaigning. Certainly, they're not asking for a remote debate.
Unable to hold large in-person rallies, the president spent part of Monday sending a barrage of all-caps tweets telling people to vote. Because of the pandemic, whether by mail or in person, many Americans already have. Chris Pallone, NBC News.
And of course, we will have that debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris right here on NBC 16 News on Wednesday. At 5, we will have NBC 16 News, followed by NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt at 5:30. Then the debate at 6 p.m. from Salt Lake City, and we'll have the debate highlights at NBC 16 News at 11. Now, we're asking our viewers on Facebook, does President Trump's coronavirus diagnosis affect your vote? Take our poll on Facebook right now. Vote yes or no, or leave a comment. Just head to our Facebook page at KMTR News. We want to know what you think. And this story is changing by the hour, so you can count on NBC 16 News to keep you updated when new information comes in. When we're not on air, we're always online at NBC16.com and our social media pages as well. There are now just 6 active wildfires burning across Oregon. That's down from 17 that the Oregon Department of Forestry was first monitoring. The largest fire, the Lions Head Fire, is now more than 47% contained. The Beachy Creek Fire in Marion County is 59% contained, and the Riverside Fire in Clackamas County is 57% contained. The Holiday Farm Fire is 78% contained. It remains at 173,000 acres. For perspective, 1 acre is roughly the size of 3/4 of a football field. County officials tell NBC 16 News property owners can opt in for hazardous waste removal services at no cost. Property owners need to sign a right of entry form by October 16th. You can find that link on the Lane County website.
So we all just kind of stood and looked around and just realized that it's all gone. The memories and everything for 30 years.
Victims of the Holiday Farm Fire look towards rebuilding a devastated community. With the McKenzie Highway now open, residents are returning to their homes and having to make some big decisions about what's next. Olivia Young is live in the studio tonight with more on how one woman is handling a massive loss. Olivia.
Kendall, I spoke with a woman who lost her Blue River home and the general store she owned to the Holiday Farm Fire. She's living out of a hotel right now, but plans to move back to her community in a trailer and then get to work rebuilding her life. She's lived in Blue River her whole life, and she says there was no question in her mind that she would return after the fire. She hopes that other community members and eventually tourists will come back too.
It's more than just Blue River, it's my home. And I'll go back there and figure it out. And hopefully, you know, if I can start something, then other people will see that it still matters and that it's okay and we'll all be okay eventually.
Stanley says, unfortunately, there are many obstacles to rebuilding. She's trying to find temporary housing and navigate insurance claims for both her home and business. Another problem keeping evacuees from returning, a major lack of communications infrastructure, with much of it destroyed by the fire. Coming up on NBC 16 News at 5:30, what solutions are in the works for those service issues? Kendall?
Thanks, Olivia. It's definitely unrecognizable up there. 8 different Oregon counties will be getting help with debris removal after the recent wildfires across the state. This is after an effort led by Congressman DeFazio and U.S. Senator Ron Wyden. The senator says this is very important because when the rain comes back, it can potentially carry all of the hazardous material into our waterways. Category A funding, which will help the community and will be reimbursed by the federal government.
Is enormously important because we know the rains are coming. We know the hazardous material is literally getting stockpiled as a result of these horrendous fires. People want to rebuild. If we don't get this hazardous material taken care of, people aren't going to be able to rebuild, and we will get a double whammy because it'll leach into our rivers.
Wyden says the cleanup effort will begin immediately. On Lane County's website, residents can also find forms to fill out if they need debris to be removed from their properties inside of the fire zone. FEMA says 7,000 wildfire victims have registered with them, but thousands more still need to. State leaders are now urging people to register with FEMA and to help get federal funds. So call the number on your screen. It's 800-621-3362 or visit disasterassistance.gov. Hazy skies remain over western Oregon today with average temperatures. NBC 16's chief meteorologist Josh Kozarty joins us live now from the Weather Center with how this haze is impacting our air quality.
And Kendall, I got to tell you, it's nice to see you on the evening side of things.
I'm so excited to be here. It feels really good.
Well, we're really happy to have you kind of at the staple helm, and Alan will eventually be able to join you. But let's head outdoors with those hazy conditions definitely dropping our air quality to moderate levels through the valleys out along the coast and the Cascades. That's where the good air quality still resides, at least at this hour. This is something that we're going to continue to see for the next several days, as the potential for the wildfire smoke could creep its way back into western Oregon. That's something we'll be timing out here in just a few moments. But some of the haze that we're experiencing right now, that's all due to the relative humidity value slightly on the upswing as opposed to where we have been for the past several days. But the good news is that's not dropping our visibility, except for Gold Beach, down to about 3 miles. Daytime high temperatures vary fall-like into the 70s through the I-5 corridor. 60s found out and along the coast with calm, quiet, and clear conditions now. Tonight's lows falling back into the upper 40s. More sunshine tomorrow, but I'm tracking rain potentials. Those details in just a few.
Thanks, Josh. Taking a look at coronavirus cases statewide, the Oregon Health Authority reports 288 new cases. The state surpassed the 35,000 mark in COVID-19 cases, and there are 572 deaths since the pandemic started. Lane County saw 130 new cases over the weekend and 1 new death. Public health officials tell NBC 16 News there's a workplace cluster linked to eWeb. There are 236 people contagious in the county right now. 4 patients are hospitalized, and there are now 20 deaths. The latest is an 83-year-old man from the Eugene-Springfield area who died last Wednesday. And an update on COVID-19 cases on university campuses. This weekend, the University of Oregon reported 16 cases. 15 of those cases are students living off campus, while 1 student is living in the residence halls. Meanwhile, last week, from September 23rd through the 30th, Oregon State reported 16 cases. And Oregon State University students will spend another term learning primarily online. The university made the announcement today about the Corvallis campus. A decision on the Bend campus is coming later this month. OSU says when the schedule for winter term is published, it will list how the classes will be taught in person or online. Oregon State has reported 99 cases of coronavirus in students, faculty, and staff between July 1st and September 30th. Looking ahead tomorrow, the Lane County's Board of Commissioners meeting will focus on the coronavirus situation in the county. Commissioners are expected to talk about the potential of going back to phase 1 reopening status as we continue to see a spike in cases. Commissioner Jay Bozovich says he is not in favor of reverting back to phase 1. That meeting starts at 9 a.m. and we'll have all of those updates on NBC 16 News at 5 tomorrow. As a reminder, more COVID-19 testing will be available next week. Lane County is hosting a wildfire evacuees testing event at the Lane Event Center Fairgrounds parking lot. Testing will be available next Wednesday and Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. and on Thursday from noon to 4. New information, a protest continued today at the University of Oregon with several people chaining themselves to the doors of Johnson Hall. It started at 9:30 last night and the group stayed overnight. The group has several demands, including divesting from fossil fuels and disarming the University of Oregon Police Department, which they say will lead to its eventual abolishment altogether. They also want the school's board of trustees removed and rebuilt.
These are all people who are viewing this institution as an investment or taking it from like an investor's side. And we want people who actually represent the University of Oregon, including like staff, faculty, everyone, students, making sure that like people who are in the landscaping, people who are in custodial are able to have a voice.
The group says they were able to meet with the Vice President of Student Life and want to speak with UO President Michael Schill to address their demands. Meanwhile, Mayor Ted Wheeler addressed the ongoing demonstrations and increase in violent crime in Portland today. The mayor says it's time for the nightly demonstrations to end. He says the violence carried out by a few is hurting the city's reputation. Mayor Wheeler wants nonviolent protests to join city leaders discussing other proposals around reform. The city's expected to discuss the opportunities in the near future.
And we encourage people to engage in it. Let's take that energy. Let's take that enthusiasm and that passion that's out there on the streets right now, and let's bring it in and have us all work together.
The mayor also touched on police accountability and how to combat a sharp increase in violent crime. Portland police say they arrested 6 people during an overnight march downtown. Police say that they started at the waterfront just before 10 and stopped by the new courthouse and central precinct before ending at City Hall. 5 of the 6 people arrested were booked. They face charges ranging from assault of a public safety officer to criminal mischief. Coming up next on NBC 16 News at 5, an early morning police chase in Minneapolis turned deadly. The reason behind the pursuit. Plus, scary moments in New York as a scaffolding with 2 workers inside collapsed 20 stories above ground. Stay with us. That's after the break.